Good morning guys and welcome back to a brand new video. You join me in my house at 5 o'clock in the morning. Now you might be wondering why am I up this early? Well, today we're going to pick up my dream first car. And here is a picture of me holding the keys to my dream first car. Now I didn't do any filming at the seller's house because I didn't want to intrude their privacy, however we did stop at a nearby garden centre and I managed to get a few shots of it. So without further ado, here she is, my 2000 Vauxhall Corsa B Club, featuring the legendary 1.2 litre 16 valve X12 XE engine. This car came spec'd from factory with a tachometer and an airbag steering wheel, which were a must for me. Considering this car's 24 years old, the interior is in mint condition, with no cracks, scuffs, tears or sagging. Back on the outside of the car, here is my tilt and slide sunroof. This is an absolute must have as the car of course has no aircon. Down here we have the standard 13-inch steelies with the original wheel trims, although unfortunately the car does only have 3 wheel trims. Under the bonnet you can see that the engine bay has probably never been cleaned since it left the factory, and of course it wouldn't be an old Vauxhall without some rust, which you can find here on the battery tray and also here on the gearbox mount. And don't forget the mandatory acne on the bottom of the bonnet. Now, underneath the Corsa there is almost no rust whatsoever, however it is particularly dirty with mud caked everywhere and even some grass growing out of places, but there is a reason for that and I'll explain that further on in the video. We then went into the garden centre to grab a quick bite to eat before starting our 300-mile journey back home, but not before spending the last of my money on my first ever tank of fuel. All things considered, the journey back home was going great. That is, until the car decided to overheat on the motorway. But not to worry, we simply pulled into the nearest service station to grab a quick snack and let the car cool off. After she cooled down, we got back on the motorway. But it wasn't long before we had some good old-fashioned Scottish weather. So guys, after that torrential rain, here we are, 300 miles back up the road. This car made it back home almost without skipping a beat. We did overheat once, but I'm pretty impressed at this car because it's been maintained absolutely perfect and it made it back up the road super smooth. It was a really comfy ride. It was a little bit terrifying in the rain, but other than that, this car is really impressive for the price we paid. So you might be thinking that this car looks a little bit different to the one that I just showed you. And it is the same car. I've just done a few little modifications, such as changing the side markers to a smoked set instead of the bright orange. I also removed the club badge off the side and all the side trim. I added a little channel sticker as well. I also debadged it, but the badges will be going back on after it's had a good polish. And of course, the most obvious thing, this sun strip. I actually bought this before I bought the car because I feel like the front windows in these cars just look a little bit too big. Earlier on in the video I said that I would explain why the underside of the car is so dirty, and the reason for that is because this car has actually been in a crash before. If you look over here at the front wing and the bonnet, you can actually see that the front wing is a very slightly different colour of blue for the bonnet, and that's because this car hydroplaned off the road into a bush and this side of the car took the impact. But we will be stripping off all the front panels and getting a look underneath to see if there's any underlying damage that hasn't been fixed yet. Fortunately though, this didn't go through insurance, so it's not a categorised car. Now on to the interesting stuff. This car is by no means going to stay stock during my ownership. We're going to do lowering springs, wheels, a loud exhaust, a race tube, an induction kit, all sorts of things, and hopefully at some point even a roof tent in the NC500. So, how much did I pay for this car? Well, The advert was up for £900. I decided that was a little bit too steep for me, so I offered her 500. I got knocked back. Then I offered the seller 700. She was happy with that as long as I came down and bought it relatively soon. So I arranged to come down and get it the next weekend, and I went down, gave her £700 and took the car away. When I came back up the road, there was a funny noise coming from the engine and I found out the alternator bearings were away. So I spent my own time and my own money taking the alternator out, took it away to get it refurbished and got it back and put it in the car for a grand total of £63. Fuel was £50, so this car, all in all, cost me £803. Oh, and don't forget all the boring stuff. Insurance was £20 for the day and road tax was £12. So all in all, the car actually cost me about £835. Which isn't too bad considering that these are an investment now. These are going up in value a crazy amount. I can't find one for anywhere near the price I paid for mine. So if you are, like myself, a huge retro Vauxhall fan, why don't you consider subscribing and stay tuned for the next video where we tear down this car and see how bad the crash damage really is. And on that note, if you've got any comments, any questions or any ideas for what we could do to the car, please leave a comment down below. Thank you guys so much for watching and I'll see you in the next one.